my sister called me and she just said like, "Oh, when can you come home?" I was saying, "Oh, I can come on Thursday." I think I was Tuesday, right? So I was saying, "Come on Thursday." Did something happen? She was just like, "Come, just come home." I asked, "Who is this? Who are you?" I called the number and then they were saying, "Oh, it's your brother." And then they had sent an article about a situation, a wrong place, wrong time situation that happened. So I was just in shock, honestly. I just started screaming, like rolling on the floor, everything. And because again, like that type of feeling, just like it just hits you. I learned you can't ask God why, God why, God why. You more so just are thankful for the time that you had with that person.
You could have one more conversation with your brother. What would you tell him?
Um, yeah.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the 1% Podcast. As always, I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for showing support. And thank you guys for showing love on every single episode. I have a guest with me today, Eniola Derasimi, otherwise known as E. You guys probably seen him around in Flatbush, Brooklyn. How you doing, my boy?
I'm doing pretty good. I can't complain. Just thankful, honestly. Today's my birthday, so thankful to God hit a quarter century. So.
Yeah, I'm blessed that you decided to come here for your birthday, bro. That means, you could have been anywhere else in the world, bro, and you decided to be here, bro. So I really do appreciate that. And sharing, a little bit of your story that is a little bit of I would definitely say it's an inspirational and motivational story for sure. And I would love for the people to hear more about it. I guess the first question I really want to know is that, your parents grew up in Nigeria, is that
in
correct?
Nigeria, yeah. So my father was from Ojuleba, that's in Lagos.
Okay.
So Nigeria actually has states as well. It has 36 states, just like the U.S. And my dad was from Ojuleba, that's in Lagos State. That was the former capital, if I'm not mistaken. The current capital is Abuja. And my mom was from Abeokuta, that's from Ogun State, so that's a little bit farther off. But both from the same tribe, Yoruba speaking. And yeah, my mom had moved out here, I believe, 30 years ago. She went to London at first for school. Likewise for my dad as well. He went to London for school as well, and then came to the U.S. They actually met each other here.
Oh, wow, that's kind of dope.
Yeah.
So obviously, you told me that you grew up here, but what were some of the things that that you've learned from them, obviously not being from this country and having to adjust? As I've learned from some people that I met in Brooklyn, being not from here and then kind of learn the culture and learn the language it's kind of like a barrier, especially if you're a lot older. So what was kind of some of the things that they've taught you, that they've instilled into you, maybe ethics or characteristics that kind of helped you?
Oh, with ethics, I could go on all day. So funny enough, my tribe is actually very, very big on respect. So the Yoruba culture is actually very, very the foundation of it is on respect. So even in little things like addressing certain people, you know what I mean? Like, for example, I can say something, for example, like, "I'll do it for you." Mon chefouin. That's for someone like our age, our age. You know what I mean? If I'm saying it to my mom, I'll say "Mama she fouin." You know what I mean? So it's like different pronouns, things of that nature. When you see elders, you have to kind of like kneel a little bit just to show respect. Things of that nature, just make sure to greet them, things like that. So those are some of the ethics that they actually instilled in me during that time. It's actually very, very different compared to America, of course. But I'm really happy for it because more than anything, growing up, a lot of people told my parents I'm a very respectful individual. And I actually love that for myself too, because carrying that is a great thing because it just shows, you know what I mean, that you have respect for your elders, which is kind of a lost art at times we can see. But I'm very, very happy I was raised up in that fashion. I feel like especially having those ethics and even sometimes to a slight degree being a little bit afraid of my parents, and discipline and everything, it helped keep me away from certain things, which obviously as we get older, we see were actually bad for us.
Yeah. It's definitely something as Brooklyn is like, especially the city, just growing up here, and seeing so many things. Obviously, where I'm from, there was different cultures and different ethnicities, but when you get here, you really see they actually bring it with them. Sometimes when people come from a different part of the world, they stop bringing that culture to where they're at, and seeing people that really embrace their culture and really live in their culture is like such a beautiful thing. But it's also, if you're an observer that doesn't really know about it, or maybe you're lacking a little bit of knowledge in that area, it's definitely interesting to see how sometimes even just people greet each other, or just certain mannerisms that you don't really see in the Western world. You kind of see
Yeah.
in the, in the Eastern side of the world, or not from here. So it's definitely something to know, especially if you're thinking about coming to the city for sure. Was there any added motivation that you wanted to be able to provide a better life maybe for them, or was there any added motivation or inspiration to be able to provide for your parents?
For my parents, yeah. Well, growing up, I actually saw my parents both work hard. You know what I mean? Especially my mom. My mom works very, very hard. She's a chef, and she's been cooking for years. Everyone loves her food, honestly. Not being biased or anything, but everyone truly loves her food. And just seeing how much she does, even up to this day, you know what I mean? And it'll be so funny. We actually were having a conversation the other day with my sister right before she left back to Cali. And my mom was saying that she was around a group of men, and they men her age, and obviously they don't work out. So she works out. My mom works out to a slight degree, obviously, morning workouts, stretches, everything. And they couldn't carry this like box. She just came out of nowhere, just carried it, and then like all of them were just like shocked. You know what I mean? Like my mom is just that type of person, and I just love how much she cares about her children. You know what I mean? That's one of the biggest values that she had, is she makes sure to take care of her children. That's one thing I really appreciate about her. And just seeing that, it just naturally makes you want more for them. You know what I mean? The circumstances you see them in or everything, like the sacrifice you've seen them make just to put you in a certain situation. So like I'm forever grateful for that. So one of my biggest motivations is always just saying like I want to see you get the fruits of your labor. Yeah. You know what I mean? I want you to reap what you have sown. And through that is raising someone like me up, I wasn't really a problem child for the most part, but still, just instilling these things in me, leading me down the right way, giving me good advice, telling me to stay away from certain things, that really helped me. So I really want to make sure, like, I make sure to help them in any type of shameful fashion that I can, and also just show them the good side of life, that they haven't seen so far.
Yeah, that's beautiful, because I know some people don't really have the best of relationships with their family members, their parents.
Yeah.
And to see you see you have a great relationship with them is, it's definitely a beautiful thing. As I wish that, for people that are listening that maybe don't have the best relationship, would you have any advice to people that maybe aren't on that side of?
On that side?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll be completely real. There have been times, obviously, you have arguments and everything with family. There's times I've been on bad terms with family. You know what I mean? But one thing I've learned is there's nothing above reconciliation at times. You know what I mean? Unless, obviously, you're really forcing the matter. If both parties can agree to reconcile, I feel like it's very, very important to try to do such. I've obviously, not to have the sad story or anything, but like obviously I've experienced people young and like around my family pass. So I'm very, very big on making sure you let people know you love them. 1, 2, like if the situation can be reconciled, like I said before, try to reconcile it. And more than anything, sometimes you realize some of these arguments we have, or just like not talking to someone for a certain period of time, you realize it's just super petty. And I feel like, even honestly, it's biblical. It says honor your father and your mother. So try your best. Now, I'm not saying, because sometimes it can be a little bit of a headache dealing with your parents at times. Don't get me wrong. Like all of us have had headaches dealing with our parents, but I truly do feel like try your best. I'm someone I've learned, because the world pushes, treat people how they treat you, things of this nature. But I've learned, don't drop your level of character based off of how someone treats you. You continue to do what you can. That doesn't mean pour into something that's not pouring back into you, but it's just like you're not going to diminish your character just because someone, you know what I mean, is throwing you off or doesn't have that same character attached to themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very easy to, especially when you see somebody kind of throwing certain comments your way, or somebody has an attitude and they portray or they project that onto you. It's incredibly hard to just kind of stay stern and hold your ground, especially if you've had a bad day. Especially if you've had a bad day, you definitely see that. Especially, I would say I really didn't start to see that until I came to the city and I saw how some people react and some people are in defensive mode all the time. And it's trying to have a conversation with them it's kind of non-existent because they're just trying to go around. They got their headphones in, you know, they're listening to the music. And that's the one thing I will say I've noticed since I've been living in the city, is that it's very hard to have conversation. As somebody who loves to have conversation with anybody and everybody, you don't really find that too often living in Brooklyn, especially.
Yeah. Well, funny enough for me, growing up, I actually wasn't as vocal as I am now. I was much more silent when I was younger. I was very socially awkward. I didn't have much confidence, things of that nature. So with me, even trying to make conversations with people, I would be intimidated, you know? So it would be kind of hard. I would have to angle it. I would overthink, like, how am I going to make this conversation with this person? And then being from the city, like you had said, like seeing how sometimes people's facial expressions is enough to just throw you off and just say, like, yeah, this person is not trying to talk to me. Yeah. But then I've realized sometimes when you get past that and you actually make the conversation is there. You know, so it's really just a mental thing, honestly. And funny enough, I watch a podcast. I listened to a podcast, by Rob Dial, and he was talking about fears that many people have, and a lot of fears we have sometimes are made up in our own minds. There aren't actually fears that could actually kill us or actually have real harm to us. So we're just making up all of these scenarios in our head. There's been so many times I've made scenarios in my head, like, oh my goodness, if I talk to this person, like, what are they gonna say? What are they gonna do? Meanwhile, the conversation comes and it's just like, it wasn't that serious, you know? So just, I feel like getting over that that hump of, dang, I don't feel like I could talk to these people. I've gotten past that. Even, it's funny, some people tell me I don't look approachable at times. But again, I think it's from being from the city. So I've naturally just have like the look, you know what I mean? Just as I'm walking, you know? So, but don't worry, I'm like, you talk to me, you know?
I think the biggest backhanded compliment somebody could really give you is saying that, oh, I didn't know you were this nice, or I didn't know you were this cool.
Yeah.
And it's crazy to think about, because if they only knew to just talk to you, I get that personally a lot when I'm in the gym, because obviously when I'm in the gym, I'm locked in. You know, got the hoodie on and everything. So when people actually have a conversation with me, they're like, I didn't even know you were this kind of person. And I'm sure you probably encountered that as well, where they just, oh, I didn't know you were this cool. I didn't know you were this kind of person. But I do agree that I think a lot of people do make up scenarios in our head. And I'll take it even a step further. It's more about success, or that something that you want to achieve, right? We kind of overthink. And listen, I've been dealing with this ever since I started this journey, before this journey, that I overthink myself to a certain degree, where it's, okay, I'm thinking so much about what I'm about to do, and if I just do it, then I'm gonna feel so much better.
Yeah, 100%.
And it's with anything, starting a business, whatever it may be, just getting that first step and putting your foot in the door, and just being like, oh, it's not really that bad, and doing it. You realize that it's you that was the problem initially, trying to overcome that hump. And now on the other side of it, it's like, well, I just should have did it. I'm overthinking and making up all these scenarios, when in reality, the only thing that's creating that is my mind. It's not really actually true, if that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly.
I kind of want to transition into before being a restaurant owner, and I'm going to get to that, and being an entrepreneur. You were in college, and you played basketball. And briefly before, there was college's experience that you had that kind of shaped you as a person. And I really want to know a little bit deeper on what that college experience kind of taught you. It's not the college experience that we're talking about. It's the college. There's something that happened in college that kind of shaped who you are now.
Oh, yes. Yes, so I could actually give a quick rundown actually of like prior to that. But me actually going upstate for college was actually a big stepping stone for me. Honestly, I was bugging in high school because I didn't even know what college I was gonna go to until roughly May. Because what was funny, I'm so sorry, but I would apply for schools. As soon as they would say you have, like, the payment for your application, I'd be like, payment. So I thought it still went through. Yo, My goodness. So as everyone's getting their acceptance letters back, I'm like, oh my goodness, I haven't gotten an acceptance letter back. And I'm like, what is my mom gonna say to me? So then, it was so funny. I woke up one day, someone I know, Jafet, great dude. He went to I knew him from Flatbush Wild. We hooped together. That's my guy now, especially. And he just asked if I was going to a showcase by South Shore. The day of, I just happened to wake up early that day. That's honestly, there's no such thing as a coincidence to me. I just woke up early one day on a Saturday, and he just said, "Are you going to the showcase?" I was like, "What showcase?" He's like, "Big Apple." I just said, I didn't know about it, but I'll go today. I just got my stuff, went, registered on the spot. All of a sudden, I had met the coach to the jugo that I ended up going to, Erie Community College, Alex Nora, Nigerian coach. And yeah, that was a great experience, honestly, going to Buffalo, getting that freedom experience just to be able to be, by myself, take care of myself. I feel like that really helped shape me. And a lot of great memories from that. Obviously, jugo can be the trenches at times, so having to experience that. But we won my second year. So that more than anything really showed me just sticking to something and having a goal. I already told myself about halfway through the season I didn't want to play basketball after that. I didn't want to further the basketball career in college because I wanted to actually find other endeavors to indulge in. And what was funny was I just told myself I can't just quit on the basketball team, you know what I mean? So I was telling myself, like, just thug it through. And what happened, we ended up winning a championship and we ended up going to nationals. We finished sixth in the country in D2 JUCO at that year, 2017-18. So if I gave up on myself, it's potentially, I wouldn't have been a part of history, you know what I mean, for my school. So that also just reminded me that as much as it might not feel like you want to keep going, as much as you don't want to do it, just keep doing it. Now, fast forward, when I stopped playing basketball, I transferred to the University of Buffalo. That's when I wanted to pursue computer science. My cousins from Nigeria would always visit, and I would always have a problem with my computer. They would always troubleshoot right in front of me. In like 5-10 minutes, all of a sudden my computer's fixed again. It would be like magic to me, you know. So that's kind of what instilled me wanting to pursue tech, and I went there. I won't lie, my first semester was horrible. I was one of those type of students that was, I just winged it. Of course I was going out partying this, that, so I just winged it. So obviously community college is a little bit easy. So I would wait until like maybe a month and a half. I'm like, okay, cool. Let me make up all of my work, go get that nice B plus, and I'll keep it pushing. That was not the case for UP, honestly. And my first GPA was terrible, horrible. And a situation, fast forward to January 2019, that's actually when the situation with my brother happened. I had lost my older brother. Mm-hmm. And that was, I would say, the biggest turning point within my life, obviously, because I really, admire my older brother. 6-year gap between us. 6 years? Was it 6 year? 7 years, sorry. 7-year gap between us. And yeah, honestly, I'll be completely real. It was very, very hard because obviously it was a shock type of situation. I took a class on grief actually the next semester, and ended up talking about the different types of grief that you can have. Shock grief, or having someone sick, so you're mentally preparing yourself for them to pass, or like the just instant you just hear, boom, they died. And obviously I went into severe depression. It's very, very important to be transparent about these things too, because many people could think they're about themselves. But I went into severe depression, honestly. I was still in school because I knew if I went back home, it would be worse because I'm around family and everything. I'm around the environment. So I kept myself away from that. I was trying my best to kind of run from the fact. But obviously I would still have my times, Many times I would still keep to myself and I would cry and things of that nature, which is at times what us men can do. But yeah, over that time, it really got bad. I can't lie to you. It really got bad to the point where I contemplated suicide a couple times. But I'm really happy I didn't fall through with it. Why? Because one thing I've learned is the situations that we go through, no matter how bad they are, right? There's purpose behind everything, right? And this is not to say that God is playing some type of sick game on us or anything, but it's like when we have these situations happen, it's what are we going to do and take from it is what's going to determine what our life is going to be. And for me, for example, I easily could have just said, I'm going to quit on life forever, become a drunk, become, you know what I'm saying, hooked on drugs kind of thing, like just try to numb myself to the point where I can't feel anything. But I was just telling myself, there's just something in me. I was just saying, like, I can't do that, you know? And it took time, of course, you know, obviously I'm grieving, so it took time. But at a certain point, I got to my third semester at UB, my third failing semester at UB. So I actually was, after I transferred, I had gotten a associate's in general studies, yes. So whatever SUNY I went to, I just needed to take the major classes, basically 2 years, and I'll be done. And I had the 3 failing semesters at UB, so that pushed me back from graduating in May 2021 to December 2022, if I was to stay at UB. And during the pandemic, you know, I had failed out of classes. I was a 4th-year student taking the intro-level class to my major, and I was just like, what am I? Like, it's so crazy how despite us suffering at times, we can still beat ourselves up and say, like, what's wrong with us? What's wrong with us? I know what's wrong with me, you know, but I was still beating myself up. Like, it doesn't matter. You should still be doing better. And what's crazy is I'm happy I started minoring in sociology because I realized our environment, and this ties back to growing up in Brooklyn, everything Flatbush, working class communities. Many times we're so used to this idea that no matter what the circumstance, we have to get past it. We don't have to acknowledge it. We just need to, you know, just get numb to it and just keep going. But we have to realize, like, it's okay to acknowledge that, you know what I mean? And like for me, I didn't realize until I was reading an article for one of the classes I was taking, and it had me almost shed a tear because I was just saying, like, dang, so seeing the homeless people at times, seeing the people on the street, seeing the, you know what I'm saying, the misfortune sometimes around Brooklyn, it really does affect your psyche. And with that being said, like, I would have teachers sometimes say, like, you know, everyone is going through problems when I would express my situation. Not necessarily saying I wanted, like, special treatment, you know, but just empathy towards my situation more so. Just understanding, like, I'm trying, but obviously, like, I have a very unique situation that happened, you know, and that's when I realized I had to leave UB. So I actually contacted the principal advisor at ECC, and she was telling me that, oh, if she had known, she would have just had me re-register for ECC and take computer science classes there because SUNYs have equivalents. I never knew that. And they never tell you that in college. Again, they charge you so much money. They charge you so much money, but they don't tell you this type of stuff. But I was like, you could do that? She was like, yeah, you can. So I re-registered at ECC. It was a SUNY. SUNY, CUNY, really same thing. You could find your way around it. And during the pandemic, it worked in my favor because I was taking a class at ECC. I was still in Buffalo at the time. So I was still in the same environment. I was just going to a different school. So I was still taking the classes, still around the same people, still living with the same group of people, but I was doing my own thing. Now, the classes are the same classes, equivalent. They're cheaper. I got a refund check. That's more because obviously ECC is less expensive. And I have more peace of mind. Smaller classes as well. My classes went from 300 to maybe 20 people, 15 people. You know what I'm saying? So I always push for people to go to a community college if they can to start. There's no reason to go into serious debt, especially when you could transfer those classes over. And pandemic hit. Oh man, to God be the glory, man. I just literally just buckled down and just said, like, there was a point in time I just told myself, listen, it's either you're going to quit on yourself or you're just going to put your head down and just go. And I literally just mapped out the entire, like, curriculum for myself at Albany. So Albany ended up having a Bachelor of Arts. UB didn't. So I had to take 5 less classes in my major at Albany. So I was saying, okay, if I go to ECC, my GPA is like a 2.9, 3.0 over there. If I keep that, I should be able to get into Albany. If I register with UB, I'm not going to get in. So I was telling myself, okay, go back to ECC, leave UB's transcript out the way. Just apply from ECC, you'll get in. And that's exactly what happened. I literally mapped out every single class I had to take. I was on the equivalent websites looking up every single thing I had to take. I was basically my own academic advisor. You know what I mean? And I believe I was about 90% accurate with the classes I had to take. I got to Albany, took the classes, and this is amazing. I literally only graduated a semester after when I was supposed to, originally, when I first got to UB, before I have even failed any classes. So that just went to go and show, like, when you're really determined, when you're really focused, when you minimize distractions, you can really get it done. But don't get me wrong, I was burnt out. I can't lie to you. I was definitely, like, really putting a lot of stress on myself. But that that was definitely one of the main things I learned, is just like how focused you can be and how much you can get done when you're really focused, you know? So
I wanna touch on your brother, and obviously I've never lost anybody. Grateful to God I haven't lost anybody. What was the initial feeling when you got the call that?
the initial feeling, honestly, I was playing basketball upstate. I was upstate at that time. I was working upstate at that time. And we were just hooping. There was just a couple of people that just happened to be in Buffalo during that time. And my phone actually was messed up, so I was just borrowing a friend's phone. His phone kind of had like a bad battery, so I just put the SIMS card in, but none of the numbers were saved. So I memorized, obviously, family's numbers, but maybe like friends I didn't really remember. So I'd actually just gotten a text. Something just my sister called me and she just said like, "Oh, when can you come home?" I was saying, "Oh, I can come on Thursday." I think it was Tuesday, right? So I was saying, "Come on Thursday." Did something happen? She was just like, just come home." Obviously, I'm pretty sure she didn't want to tell me over the phone. She didn't want to be the one to break it to me, and I just kept playing, but I was worried, you know what I mean? And about like 20 minutes later, after the next game, I just woke to my phone and I just heard someone say, "Sorry for your loss." So immediately there was 3 people that came to mind. It was either my brother, because he was staying in LA at the time, my sister who stays in LA, and my father, right? Because he lives by himself now. No, my parents separated. So those were the people I was like, oh, that aren't near us. My sister said my mom was good, so I was like, oh, like, you know what I'm saying? It must be one of the people. Then I asked, who is this? Who are you? I called the number, and then they were saying, oh, it's your brother. And then they had sent an article about a situation, a wrong place, wrong time situation that happened. So I was just in shock, honestly. I just started screaming, you know, like rolling on the floor, everything. And because, again, like that type of feeling, just like it just hits you. You know what I mean? You don't really know exactly how to react, so you just do whatever. And yeah, it was crazy, man, honestly, because um it's weird. It's like there's a numb feeling, but then there's an extreme feeling. It's kind of like two extremes. It's literally 0 to 100 kind of thing. But yeah, I wasn't able to eat, obviously, for some time, for a couple of days. I was trying to, but I wasn't able to. A couple of people, I'm thankful for all of them. They actually stopped by my house during that time. People let them know they came by my house, everything, and let me know, and just let me know that they were there for me. But for the most part, I just really went to my room. But one thing, which is kind of crazy, because I wasn't even really too much into like my faith. I would go to church, but I wasn't really too like in depth with my faith at that time. I literally just got on my knees. I literally just told God, like, I went to my room and I told God, I said, I don't know what's going on, but I trust you. But like, I don't know what said that, because my emotions at that time did not match that whatsoever. I promise you, like, my emotions didn't match that whatsoever. You know what I mean? So that was the initial reaction to it. And of course, like I said, just when you felt emotional, step to the side, cry, come back kind of thing. Not really letting too many people see you crying. But yeah, that's kind of how it was for me during that time.
What was one of the most important things that he taught you that you still keep with you to this day?
To this day, honestly, just the principles of being someone with impact. You know what I mean? Like, I saw in how he acted, how he treated people, you know, just the type of good vibe that he gave off to people. He was an amazing individual. And funny enough, his name, Coyote, itself in our language means he brings joy. And he did nothing less of that. Literally every single person that has met him has talked about how much of a good experience they had, even if it was just one. Your brother showed so much love. Your brother was such a great individual. Your brother was this. Your brother was that. So I remembered that, because a lot of people obviously knew I really admired my brother. You know what I mean? Growing up. So with that being said, like, I told myself, like, be that person, but in your own way. You know, I can't walk in his footsteps. I could just take what he did, his losses and his wins, and try to see how I could learn from that and apply it to my life. And that's kind of what I've been doing so far.
In terms of grief, obviously, I think it was interesting that you took a class right after that it happened. Um, in terms of, I'm kind of interested on a little bit, obviously, if you remember anything that you've
Yeah.
learned in that class. What are, for somebody that may be listening to this that is grieving,
Mm.
or to somebody that, whether it's a person that may have passed, or a relationship,
Mm.
or within themselves, they're trying to forgive themselves, and what is something that you would tell to them about the whole grieving process?
Yeah, process. First things first, I would definitely say stay away from substance. Like me personally, I wasn't ever really too much of a heavy substance user or anything, but I already knew already don't go to substances because that's literally just going to be some type of an escape, quote unquote, from reality. I told myself, I said, and it was, I can't, I'm still, it's really crazy. I was this brave at that time, but I told myself, I literally need to just take this to the chin sober. Because I told myself, I said, this is not the type of thing you could just process, whether you're drunk or high. You're not always going to be there. So you don't want to get too dependent on that. But also, just like every single grieving situation is different. Everyone's grieving situation is unique. So you can lose the same person, you right? Like me and my sister both lost our brother, obviously, but at the same time, both of us are feeling different ways because we both had different relationships with him. You know what I mean? Like you could have had a close relationship with him, but the next person could be feeling the pain of it much more just based off of the fact of how they are. So little things like this, there are many different factors. So one of my biggest things is one, don't let people define your grief or your pain. That's one of my biggest things. I feel like that's extremely important. Don't ever set a time limit on it because everyone has to take their time to process these things. It's about to be 5 years for me, honestly, and I still have my times, you know. But like the most encouraging thing I would say is, in the end, it doesn't. I wouldn't say it sounds grim, but more so like we all have our time, right? And obviously, everyone's situation is different. There's some people who have died violent, some people have died peacefully, but the main thing is that you're still here, right? So it's really just about really letting yourself process it. I've learned you're not guilty for what happened to you, but you're responsible to heal from that. So as much as I've lost him in that fashion, it's still my responsibility to heal from that. Because if I don't, my interaction with other people can be bad, and then I could just blame it on that. But then again, it's like, whose fault is that? It's my fault because I'm not trying to take those steps, you know. So I made sure to try to do that for myself. And it just honestly, for anyone out there that's grieving, I would just definitely say, let yourself feel. You know what I mean? Especially guys, I won't lie to you. Sometimes we just feel like, yo, we just gonna get past it kind of thing. But just it's really like just when you embrace the fact that you are feeling a certain way, let that emotion out.
Yeah.
I truly feel like that's really helped me a lot over my time.
It's also Men's Mental Health Month, so for any men out there, man, you guys, every man out there, whatever they're going through, um, it's okay. I feel like, especially in the times that we live in,
Yeah.
it's everything is magnified. So regardless of where you walk, who you are, whatever, showing emotion is looked at as weak, or it's looked at as inferior. But in fact, to me, I think that is the most masculine man, being able to deal with all sides of it, not numb it or push it to the side or kind of push it down, rather feeling it and allowing it to come in and allowing it to let go and allowing it to kind of shape your perspective or shape your way of thinking. And to me, I think that's the most manly or masculine thing to do, because you'll see people just use the drugs, like you said, use the alcohol and shower in that, and really indulge in those activities to be able to not feel it. And I don't think that I don't agree with that. And as most of the people know that are listening, this is definitely a self-improvement mental health podcast. So mental health is always encouraged over here. If you are feeling a certain way or you want to harm yourself, definitely go talk to somebody, talk to anybody. It doesn't matter who it is, And I know that you could probably attest to that, where as long as you're talking to somebody or just getting it out, you're gonna feel a lot better about everything that you're going through. If you just hold it in, there could be a breaking point where one thing can happen, one memory, one experience that was shared, or something that you're going through and you snap, and
Yeah.
all of a sudden you may not be here anymore. And I think that is incredibly important, especially since it's, Men's Mental Health Month, but mental health in general. We all need to be able to make sure that we're learning from it and growing from it for sure.
Yeah.
Um, Obviously, you spoke a little bit about what you've learned in terms of life, but
Mm.
going through that experience, what did you learn really about yourself? Like, was there something that kind of stood out to you that maybe you didn't know prior to going through such a traumatic experience?
Yeah. It showed how much a person could actually withstand emotionally. You know what I mean? Because especially in the sense of like how my brother had passed, like hearing the situation, having to, there was a court case and everything that was going on about it. So, my older sister has to go there on a regular basis. She would go there on a regular basis, drive out an hour just to be there, just for hearing, even if it was 10 minutes. So that really took a lot of strength out of her. And I went to one and actually saw the person who did it, right? And that in itself just broke me down completely. I had to leave the courtroom. But also, like, I also had to raise, kind of like get up and try, like, like beat him up and everything. But then at a point, I just told myself, like, you really just gotta let go. You know what I mean? And even during that time, I had certain situations where, you know, just things that happened that kind of just like threw me off, and it was just really bad timing. So like I was a very very sensitive it was a very very sensitive time for me because obviously I was dealing with that. So like how people necessarily reacted to that and also reacted to me or even just treated me during that time showed a lot. So I really based that and told myself, like, if you saw I was this bad, you know what I mean, or didn't even know I was this bad, that goes to show, you know what I mean, that you're not really as good of a friend as you think you are.
Yeah.
And I just had to just tell myself that, not necessarily that, oh, I can't have friends anymore. No, but I was just telling myself, like, you can't expect everything out of everyone. There's certain people who have certain strengths in certain areas. There's certain things you should expect out of certain people. So it really just had me look in the mirror and just tell myself, like, okay, I can't put this type of person on the same pedestal as this person. You know what I mean? This person, yeah, I'm cool with this person, but at the same time, this person has held it down better for me. So I learned that about myself because I was the type of person, if I was cool with you, like very cool with you, I kind of put everyone on the same pedestal. But I learned to like put people where their strengths are at. And again, it really just taught me that man, I'm a weak individual. And I say that only because as I started getting better with my faith, right, and started taking my faith more serious, reading the Bible more, actually started trying to develop a relationship with Christ more, I started realizing, like, it said we don't need to be strong. Like, he is our strength. So it's like, you trying to carry that heavy burden isn't going to really do much for you because we only have a finite amount of strength, energy, and even knowledge. So it's like, I remember the verse. I can't remember the exact chapter, but it said, "Come to me, all of you who are heavy burden, and carry my yoke because my yoke is light." What does that mean? He's basically saying trade off your problems, express your problems to God, and He'll carry them for you. You don't got to carry your problems for you. It's easier said than done, of course, but for me, I learned I really like carrying a lot of my problems from my past, either, you know what I mean, like growing up or traumas from my past, the grief, self-confidence, things of this nature. And I just told myself at a point, I said, I can't carry this anymore. There's no reason to. I was stressed all the time. I was frustrated. I was upset all the time. And at a point, I just told myself, nah, just let go, bro. The beginning of 2022, I just said, just let go of it. Just forgive. I understood the beauty of forgiveness, right? Many times people think forgiveness means like, oh, I'm going to forget what you did and you could walk all over me again. But nah, that's not it. It's letting go of that desire for something, you wanted something bad to happen to that person. It doesn't mean reconciliation, especially if it's not going to benefit or they haven't learned from their mistakes. So like for me, for example, like I've forgiven many people, but I don't see the need for any type of reconciliation because one, they haven't learned from what they've done. There's no point in us being friends again because that just, you know what I'm saying? If you haven't learned from your mistake, I'm doing you a disservice, making you my friend again because that means you didn't really learn from it. And I'm encouraging that. So, I mean, of course, like I've had my faults because I was emotionally compromised. So I would obviously like get upset or do this, do that. You know what I mean? But I feel like I've really learned a lot about myself during that time. But also, like, one of the biggest things that really started being important to me was men's mental health, and also just discipline, taking care of yourself. Because once I saw it, like I said, I started being way more disciplined with myself, and I was just goal oriented. I just told myself, like, hey, like, when you stop focusing on all this other stuff, you just let go of all of these things that don't really matter. As much as, like, you care about that, just let it go. I mean, it hurts less, one. Two, you have to focus on yourself more. You know what I mean? And your progress. So I feel like that's a lot of what I've learned over this time.
The term baggage, you really, when you really like break it down and you really put it in a sense of holding on to it, there's so many things that we just hold on to for no reason.
Yeah.
All the previous the previous partners, the things that happened into our past or that happened to us, and we just hold on to it so much. But what we don't realize in that moment is when we're holding on to such negative energy, the thing that's going to manifest out of that is negative. There's nothing that is going to become positive. It's not, a negative and a negative equals a positive. It's
Exactly.
a negative equals a negative. So you're going to see a negative outcome, right? And it's so much easier said than done, like you said, to forgive. And something that I've always noticed, you don't have to forgive for that other person. You can forgive for you to be able to let yourself be free from the shackles that whatever this experience or whatever this thing that happened to you, you can now break free from it. So now you're not carrying all this heavy weight with you anymore. That you can let it just go. And once you just forgive for whatever it may be, I think people will realize it's a lot more of a freeing experience, and it's a lot more of a joyful, and you start to see love out of it, because once you just let everything be and just understand that, all right, maybe it wasn't how I wanted this to be, but it is, and it's just being, right? Like, that's the whole thing that I would see behind it. And there's so much things that if we could just look past it, or the reconciliation, I agree with you that I don't think we need to reconcile with everybody, just because you can just accept it and, kind of like handshake and just go on your way and just go on your own journey. But that doesn't mean that you have to allow this person or this thing or whatever it is back into your life. And once you kind of put past it, you could just kind of pack it up and just move forward. So I definitely agree with that. I think that that's a lot of things that people struggle with now, especially with how many people in the world are just bad people. Just it's not
it's definitely not easy,
and it's harder to really understand that there's just bad people out there. You can't really change them. You can't make them become good. They're just bad because of their lack of self-awareness or lack of work or lack of growth within self. And that's just what it is. And there's nothing that you could do. There's nothing that you could say, nothing that can change this person's path. And in some cases, you try to feel empathy for that person, because at the same time, it may not be their fault. Unfortunately, it's an unconscious way of believing or unconscious way of thinking that I'm not going to change because of this experience or because whatever happened. So they just continue to stay the same and don't really want to look at outside of the box or outside of themselves to be able to become better moving forward.
Yeah, and it's a sad thing, I would definitely say, because one thing I learned from those type of situations, especially when you feel like people have done you wrong or things of that nature, I learned from my experience, because like 2 years I had like really, really bad like animosity, you know what I'm saying, to someone. I just realized one day, I just said, every time his name is mentioned, I get upset, I get tense. So he has control over my emotions without even being there. So once I realized that, I said, that is way more powerful than me just letting go. Me holding a grudge is much weaker than me, you know what I'm saying, letting go of it. And, I just got to the point, honestly, I think it was beginning of 2022, I just called, I just said, listen, I don't got no problem with you no more. You know what I'm saying? And obviously, like, the emotion is still there, so it's not going to, like, happen overnight. But you need to make the first step towards healing. I feel like, and sometimes we just get so caught up in they just did me so bad. Like, hey man, listen, I heard some very, very crazy news told to me, you get what I'm saying, from someone I was cool with the weekend before I was about to go to that court date. So like imagine how crazy I felt. You know what I mean? Like I was really livid. Like how could you know what I'm saying? But again, you just realize like you have to let go. And also the beautiful thing about it too is as I've gotten more, like I said, into the faith, I started realizing like one, the Bible is a beautiful thing because it tells us none of us are good people in reality, especially in God's eyes. It says our good deeds are like filthy rags in the eyes of God because God is so holy. So what does that mean? Is like as much as people have done me wrong, I've done people wrong too in my life. You know what I mean? Sometimes we forget about that. I remember like I'll go way back and I say, oh my goodness, I remember, I don't want to remember that time. I don't want to remember that time. But it's there, you know what I mean, for a reason. And it even says like you must forgive others as God has forgiven you. So it's like them saying like God forgives, I don't, is like the highest form of pride because it's saying like you're trying to be above God. If God can forgive you, who are we not to forgive others? So that's why I try to like emphasize it. Even if I don't want to, you gotta let go of that. Yeah. Because like I said, I'm not about to sit here and try to make it seem like I'm better than God. You know what I mean? As we can clearly see, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him. So that being said, like I like to walk in obedience in that type of fashion. And also is a humbling factor. And that's why like as I started reading the Bible more, started getting more, watching more sermons and really doing that independent study like by myself, not all of these like fake pastors like prosperity gospel, all of that. Like I saw like the main topic of it is look, we mess up and that's okay. But acknowledge the fact that you messed up and try to walk in obedience, try to walk in a better light. You're not always gonna get it right. That's okay, but that's the exact reason why the sacrifice was made, because we would never get it right. That's the beautiful thing about it, and that's the ultimate showcase of love. And once I realized that, that's what made me just tell myself, like, it made me more inclined to be that better person or forgive that person. And like I said, God isn't, like, it's not said like, oh, yeah, he just slapped you, so you just gotta forgive him, forget about it, let him slap you again. Like, nah, you know what I mean? It says, matter of fact, it says, if someone sins against you, you forgive them 7 times 7. Right? If they sin against you 7 times, you forgive them 7 times 7. Something along the lines of that, right? Someone think like, what you, like, I saw, they're gonna be walking all over me, but it's like, if they're genuinely sorry when they come back to you, you gotta forgive them. Even sometimes, even if they don't come back and ask for forgiveness, you still need to forgive just for yourself, just to free yourself from that. As I started learning, it's like, you don't have more power by keeping that. You have more power by letting go of it, because you free yourself from that.
Yeah. The Bible study you talked to me about was something that has kind of been transformational in your and just everything. I guess I want to start off with, when did you start to really dive into the faith, and where were you able to find this group to kind of hold you together, or kind of make you start believing in life again, or start loving again, or kind of bring you back to the person that you are now?
Yeah, so first things first, I'll definitely say, obviously we all, like many people say like, oh, I've been to church or this blah blah, but it's like, it's different when you actually really like the basis of Christianity. There's a lot of propaganda around it, but a lot of people haven't actually read the book. That's one thing I learned, especially myself, and I was making a lot of these claims myself. But when you actually take the time to actually read it, its basis is a relationship with you and God, right? And with me, obviously, like, the world teaches something different, propaganda. Obviously, there's new norms all the time, so there's never like a solid foundation in this day and age. And you know, like I said, when I was upstate, it was during the pandemic, right after the pandemic, so obviously there weren't as many people upstate anymore. It was a couple of us, you know, my friends and everything, but not too many people. I had a lot of downtime to think. Obviously, it could have been negative, could have been really negative, it could have been really, really good. But during that time, I was just telling myself, like, you know, just thinking about everything, thinking about life, just thinking about the fact of, like, I've seen, you know, my brother had passed, my brother's life was taken at 27. I'm 25. That's 2 years older than me. That's not that far. You know, my first cousin, she had sickle cell. She had passed because she had got malaria. She got too sick, and she died when I was 14. So like I've seen people young die. So I was telling myself, there's no guarantee when you have tomorrow. You don't know if you have tomorrow. You don't even know if you have later on today. So I was telling myself, what's gonna happen after you pass, right? So that's when that started coming into my mind a little bit more. The thought of that started like dwindling a little bit more. And naturally, I was doing something funny. I would watch videos of people who had visions of going to hell to like whip myself into shape and basically be like, yeah, you got to get right. You got to stop, like, just doing whatever. You really got to get right with God. And it took time, of course. It's not a one day type of overnight type process. But little by little, I just started telling myself like, yeah, I want to just be better. And like I said, once I was more disciplined, I ended up seeing that, oh, like, you're so much more focused. When you're not worried about texting a million women, you're not worried about chasing this woman, getting, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're just focused on yourself, bettering yourself. It just makes something so amazing. I fell in love with that. So with that being said, like, I started reading about it just a little bit more. Started watching sermons a little bit more. Like, obviously you got to discern, because like I said, there's some that just give you a false, God sees you where you are, he loves you, he'll bless you, but it's like, it doesn't show the self-correction part, the walking in obedience, the kind of like dying to self, where it's like, you can't indulge in this even if you want to. Again, the discipline aspect. It's a real discipline aspect, and like I said, I started falling in love with discipline. Because why? Because I saw how much it produced, but also I saw how much a lack of discipline can destroy people. Because lack of discipline had destroyed some of my friendships. You get what I'm saying? And that's one of the biggest reasons I told myself. That motivated me, like, I don't want to be like that. So that kind of was like an extra boost. And yeah, there was just a time nearing the last semester of school I had when I was staying in Albany. They had told me to come in person. Well, I don't know, for 2 classes. I was upset. But I was staying with one of my guys, Benji, and my church would have prayer calls on Wednesdays. So I would just attend those because I have the free time, like, I don't have excuse. Just go on. I'll feel so much better, when I prayed about things like, God, I pray that, that you'll bless my family, that, I'll forgive me if I've done wrong. And it has you self-reflect. Because as you're asking for forgiveness, you're saying, like, God, I'm sorry for this situation. I'm genuinely sorry. I didn't know better, but I know better now, and I really want to get better. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, little things like this, it really helps develop you into a better individual. And beginning of 2022, one of my guys, Chi, I knew him through a mutual person at UB. So we weren't, like, super cool, but we just knew each other. Nigerians, Africans just knew each other. You know what I'm saying? So he called me one day randomly, just said, hey, how you doing, bro? Hope all is well. And he just checked in on me, just asked how I was doing. He said, like, oh, yeah, man, I just want to check in on you. There's a study, an old men's study, right, that I'm a part of, that meets on Mondays and Tuesdays. I would love for you to come. So I said, like, I've already been praying. Why not, being around, like, other people? And it's called The Circle, right? It was started by Chi, Tyler Mabry. He's on tight end on the Seahawks right now, and a couple more people. And it's a beautiful space, man, because like you were saying, I prayed hard for a place where men could just speak about what they're going through. And I even got to the point where I was saying, I want to create that for myself, for people. So even there was one time I remember I hosted a clubhouse with 2 of my guys, Cletus and Car, and we just had a bunch of guys, and they were just talking, and they really just talked about what really traumatized them and just let it all go. It felt amazing. Like, it felt amazing, like, no one judging each other. You know what I mean? We just literally just saying, like, yo, this thing really hurt me. I really feel bad. And nobody's judging you. That was a beautiful situation. I said, nah, I want to keep doing this. I kept praying for it, but obviously, like, for some reason, I wasn't able to really start it necessarily myself. So I ended up being a part of one. And the beautiful thing about it is it was connected with God as well. So as I'm seeing that, like me, for example, it got to the point where even during the pandemic, by force, I was abstinent by force, you know what I'm saying, by that time. And I realized how focused I was. Then I was telling myself, you know what, I might just do that again, just to be focused. and really just obviously because it's already set to be that way until marriage, and I just kept doing that, and I would say like, dang, like this is not easy. You know what I mean? Obviously the temptations, everything, lack of discipline, this that, but I would say like, oh dang, like it's been like 4 months. This is crazy. I don't even know how I'm even surviving right now. Meanwhile, it's like we don't realize we went what? Even if you lost it early, 15 years without it, 16, 17, 18 years. So it's like once we start, all of a sudden we get into this notion of, oh, I can't go a couple weeks, a month, 2 months without it. But it's like before you started, you went a good majority of your life without it. You know what I mean? And I would hear people say, oh, not to brag or boast in themselves, but just more so like, oh yeah, it's been about what, like a year and a half, 2 years. I'd be like, how? But again, it's just like any other thing. I see these things, sex, alcohol, weed, just as crutches many times to like just to instant gratification. I like calling it instant gratification and just pleasure more so. Is like when you stop feeding the urge, it makes it easier to defend against it. So it's like once you start indulging in it, just like smokers, like if you stop smoking for some time, you're gonna, you know what I'm saying, you're gonna build the tolerance not to smoke or not to feed into the urge of smoking. Likewise for drinking, likewise for having sex. So especially because of society like normalizing being hypersexual and everything, everyone feels like you gotta have sex, you gotta do this, you gotta do that. But it's like, nah, bro, like once you actually don't have that in the equation to begin, you start to actually see, because many times people love saying, I never knew they were like that. But then it's like some people are too deep in. You already have a child coming, and you didn't know they was like that. But that was because you led with the lust rather than sense. And once I started doing that, I started seeing like, hey, like yeah, this girl looks good, but like I wouldn't date her. She doesn't have a good head on her shoulders. She wouldn't be a good girlfriend. I wouldn't want to bring her to my mom. You know what I mean? Things of that nature. And I've been preaching this message for some time to people, you know what I'm saying, that I know. And obviously everyone has their own different, you know what I'm saying, journey. So I'm not going to sit here and make it seem like, oh, I'm better than anyone because, you know what I'm saying, I've like more discipline towards that. But like it just helps. You're able to better discern who's really for you. You're able to better discern like, yo, I don't need to do that. You know what I mean? You don't indulge in certain things. And one more thing I was even going to say too, like one of the biggest reasons why I was so happy I strayed away from many different things that I used to indulge in was it was vain. And when I was at my worst, grieving my brother, these things didn't fill up the hole that was going in my heart. So it's like I'm still doing the same things, but I feel so empty. So I was like, do these things really matter? You know what I mean? Like I really had to ask myself that question. And when I asked myself that question, I was just saying that these things don't matter, bro. So I just told myself, all right, let me just try this whole like, you know, trying to, you know, take God serious. Let me just try this with staying from certain things. So like I said, obviously it was a process, but over time I just got better. And again, being around other guys who are also doing it from all over the US, from different backgrounds, different stories and everything, and we just meet on a weekly basis and just checking on each other. Overtime calls, how you doing? You know what I'm saying? How's everything? How's your life going? There's been guys that cried on there. For real, like bawling, tears, and nobody's judging you when they pray over you. That's like I didn't understand the power of people praying over you and how much love there has to be for someone to pray over you until it really happened for me. You know what I mean? Like people really just genuinely that don't know you just saying like, I really want to genuinely pray for you. And when I saw that, that's when I knew there was power in fellowship with God rather than just regular fellowship. You know what I'm saying? Over all of these things that we feel like are so important. And yeah, man, honestly, shout out to all of my guys at the circle, man. Telf, Chi, Tyler, Will, everyone. Mac, everyone, bro. Honestly, like these guys. And what's crazy, many of them I've only met maybe once in person or haven't even met in person yet. You know what I mean? But what's even funnier, the tournament I threw in honor of my brother, the basketball tournament, the first one I just threw this last summer, a lot of them came to the tournament for the weekend, and that was their first time meeting me in person. And they came just to help me with the tournament, just to be there, just to be a helping hand. That showed me like, bro, this type of love, you can't explain it. It has to be sourced from God. You get what I'm saying? There's no way strangers are picking up themselves and coming all the way to New York for a weekend and just saying like, I'm gonna be there for you. There's people that live in Brooklyn, and it's not saying like I'm mad at certain people income now, but it's like there's people that were in the same city as me, the same like mile radius, 20 minutes, and was like, yeah, it's happening, but you know what I'm saying, I don't feel like going. There's people from Detroit, Florida, DMV that just said, nah, we're gonna be there for this guy. So that's like, yeah, man, honestly, that has been like an anchor in my life. That has been a real blessing in my life. Every chance I get, I've been recommending it to people, and a lot of people have really loved it. A lot of the guys I know, like as they get on, they're just like, nah, this is an amazing space. I love it. They've been saying like, they've been saying, I've maybe invited I think like 40, 50 people over this year so far. And a lot of those people have become like consistent members now. A lot of those people have actually like really benefited from it, attend on a weekly basis. They say it helps so much. A lot of it calls like link ups, and I don't take no credit for it. It's just really God working through me. And one of my favorite verses that actually talks about it is Matthew 5:16. It says, let your light so shine before men so that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven. So basically, to paraphrase it, is basically just saying like, as you continue doing these great things, just being a light to people, helping people, you know what I'm saying, being a great person to people, they're going to see it and be like, what's making you do this? Then when you just give all the credit to God, they're like, I want to see what that same God is about. You know what I'm saying? Because I learned, in reality, all of us need God. For real, we really do. Like, we're made in his image. So it's like, it's just like a fish out of water. If you're away from the source, you're going to slowly die. You know what I mean? And that's why I just found the importance of that. And again, like, that study has just been an amazing thing for my life. So I like with me, I'm kind of like, if something is good for me, I want to share it, kind of thing. Obviously, to a point if it's shareable. But yeah, like I said, I've seen how much it's helped me. So I really love like just sharing it to other people so they can see how amazing God is.
Yeah. Wow, it was a lot. There's a lot to unpack in that. I guess for me personally, I also had another great gentleman. If you're watching this, Lee McConnell, he's a boxing trainer, and he talked about God a little bit. And as somebody who grew up practicing Judaism and going away from religion, now as I've gotten older, I've started to look for something to be able to. I don't know. There was certain times in my life where God wasn't in the picture, and great things were happening. And then there was times when, like now, God's not in the picture, but I'm struggling a little bit, and it's weird because I want to be able to believe in something, because I do believe in a higher source, a higher power. I just don't think we just got here just because of a flying rock.
Oh yeah,
right. But
just boom, we just came here like that.
Just, all of a
to this
sudden
day, like, and they change the story up every other couple years. Like, oh yeah, no, my bad. Sorry, we were like, do you know the probability of like the Big Bang being so accurate? Like
it's 1 in a million.
Yeah, basically. Like 1 in freaking quadruple, trillion, whatever. But yeah.
Yeah. So I've been trying to find something to really. I think a lot of it has been stained from. I've tried to embark in different religions, right? Like I've read books about Buddhism. Obviously, I practiced Judaism for a little bit, so I understand the faith. But there was always like a resistance, and I'm not sure what it is. And to be transparent with you, I'm looking for to learn more about different faiths, to be able, because I think that you see so many great things happen when people put their relationship around the higher source or the higher power.
Yeah, 100%.
Great things start happening, and I don't believe in coincidence either. I think that everything happens for a reason, whether it's the higher power, whether it's whatever it is. There's something that occurs in that, and I guess for me personally, I would love to learn more. You know, obviously after this, I would love to learn more about that group and kind of embark in something. Obviously, as men, we all need something, and to just a group, a community, and that's something that kind of really piqued my interest for sure. But I've been trying to have faith in a higher power, to be transparent, and for a long time I didn't really know where it would be, what it would look like, or what kind of faith it would be. But I've been looking as of recent, and I would say definitely in my struggles, to be able to have faith in something that you can't see.
Yeah.
One of my friends, shout out Mark. I'm not sure if he's gonna watch this, but he always said to me that, you know, when you breathe, you're breathing, right? You can't see the oxygen. So the same thing goes with in faith. You can't see faith, or you can't see God Himself, but as long as you're walking in that faith, that undeniable belief that things will be better, or belief that God will bring a better situation out of whatever circumstance you're going through, or whatever hardship you're going through, you can't see that. You can't see the direct tunnel. You can't see the line that you're walking in. But the faith is something that is blind. Like you can walk forever, but as long as you believe that there will be better, or better circumstances, then better will be there. And as long as you have that faith, then everything will work out. And I think that's something that really stuck with me. So when you talked about, you know, religion, it's something that I really wanted to embark on, and just hearing that there's a group or a community of men that are, you know, vulnerable and hold space for each other, and kind of center this relationship around love, is something that I'm always for. So definitely would love to learn more about that after this podcast for sure. But I appreciate you really sharing that with me for sure. That means a lot.
Nah, yeah, no doubt, man. Honestly, like I said, it's a beautiful thing. Like, this isn't the type of thing you can keep to yourself. You know what I mean? Like, one of my biggest things I told myself as I was going through a lot of my problems was I need to become the type of person I needed growing up, or even during those dark times when I felt like I was by myself. Because, like, depression is such a crazy thing, man. It's like, it really puts a mask over you to the point where people you love won't think it's that bad. Because sometimes I can't even blame certain people around me for thinking like, oh, I didn't know it was that bad for you, because I really didn't make it seem that bad. Why? Because every time it got that bad, I would run to a corner by myself and then come back and make it seem like I was good, you know? And yeah, man, just like the beautiful thing about this faith, because like I said, there's so many speculations, like, oh, so many different translations, blah, blah, this, that. Like, my sister actually showed me a documentary that talked about the history of it. A lot of the conceptions we have, like, people have around that book, are just like them just following what the media has pushed. You get what I'm saying? I actually just told myself, like, if I'm going to disagree with something, learn everything about it so I know what I'm disagreeing with. I feel like, especially in this day and age with so much social media, people's attention spans are so short. It's like, I've heard people say, yeah, I think the Bible is corrupted. And there was like, have you ever read it? There was like, nah, I've never read it before, but I think it's corrupted. It's like, so how do you know it's, you know what I'm saying? Like, we've gotten to that point, and also we've gotten to the point in time where it's like, people, if they don't like somebody, even if that person tells the truth, they won't accept it because that person's been wrong before. You know what I mean? So it's like the messenger, you have a problem with the messenger, so that means you can't accept the message even if it's true. It's like, I can't lie to you, like, there's some evil people in this world that we have obviously seen. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, it's like, I'm not trying to justify any of their, not at all. There's a lot of evil actions, and they got to face God with that. You know what I mean? But I'm trying to say in the sense of, like, the truth isn't always going to come wrapped in, you know what I'm saying, like, gift wrapping. It's not always going to come from the ideal person. It's not always going to come from, you get what I'm saying, the type of situation that you want it to be from. I feel like, especially with, like, this day and age, everyone is so used to just being offended. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, everyone just wants to be offended sometimes. And it's like, bro, like, no one's offending you. We're just having a basic conversation, like basic discourse. And yeah, man, just like, that's the beautiful thing, like I said about this belief, is like, my dad's side of the family is actually Muslim. My mom's is Christian. So I kind of grew up in a sense, like, thinking like, all right, all religions are the same, until I actually, like, really started diving deeper into, like, you know what I'm saying? And there was just one day I just prayed to God, and I really just said, like, God, I know I need you. So I've gotten to the point where I'm like, all right, cool. Like, I know I need you. And this grief thing has kind of been really, like, kicking my butt, I ain't gonna lie. So I was just saying, please direct me in the form that is the truth. You get what I'm saying? Because one thing I learned is there is no such thing as objective truth. There's just truth. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, you can't say like, oh, my truth. Like, there's no such thing as that. That might hurt people's feelings. That might come off controversial in this day and age, but there's no such thing as objective truth. There's literally just truth.
Yeah.
Someone can't look in the sky and say, oh, the sky is pink when it's blue. It's blue. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Oh, I see pink. Well, you might be colorblind. That's okay. But that's a condition, but it's still blue. You know what I mean? So, yeah, man. And with that belief, bro, like I said, it's so sad that some people don't even read it, because that book gives you affirmation. It gives you clarity. It gives you direction. It also gives you correction, right? And it just lifts you up in so many different fashions. So, like, when people say, like, daily affirmations, everything is like, my daily affirmations come from reading the Bible. You get what I'm saying? Because, like, God's promises, he says we're worthy. He says we're loved. He says that you know what I'm saying? All of these different things. So it's like, that made me realize, like, yo, there's really like a relationship factor. It's not just you do a set of actions every single day. Or, you get what I'm saying? Like, set practices and you good. It's like, what made this so different is it's really a relationship factor, and that's what I love about it so much.
Yeah. I think that camera's about to die soon. I think this camera's good. I had a bunch more questions, but one thing I did want to be able to know is if you could have one more conversation with your brother, what would you tell him?
Man, I was thinking about that the other day too. I would really just thank him, man, honestly, because I learned you can't ask God why, God why, God why. You more so just are thankful for the time that you had with that person. So, like, with my brother, honestly, like, I would really just thank him, because, again, like, a lot of things and everything he wanted me to be, I'm starting to become now. I'm accomplishing, and, like, I would just thank him because he saw that in me when I couldn't see that for me for the life of me. I couldn't see that for anything. I didn't have any self-confidence. I didn't have any of that. But he saw better for me, and he wanted better for me than what he wanted from himself. All his friends say that. And sometimes it's so easy when you hear people saying that, like, yeah, cool, but, like, I really know genuinely in his heart he did. So I really just tell him, like, obviously just tell him I love you dearly. Again, I really appreciate everything that he did for me. You know what I mean? He was kind of more so like a tough love kind of person, so we would get into like a couple arguments. I would get a little bit upset, but end of the day, like, love is love. You know what I mean? And everyone has a different shape and fashion of expressing that love, as long as it's healthy. You get what I'm saying? But yeah, honestly, just like thank him, man. Honestly, like, that's my God for real. Like, that's really like, I don't say idols. Obviously, my belief is against idols. It's only just God, but I really admire like his character. I'm just admire the fact of how great of a man he was during his time here, you know, and like that really impacted me and really influenced me into becoming who I am today.
If there was one thing that you want to grow 1% better in, what would that be?
1% better at
It's the last question I usually ask everybody.
Funny enough, that's a title. I don't know why I didn't see that coming. 1% better. As of late, honestly, I'd definitely say my patience. You know, one of the fruits of the spirit that it says in the Bible is long suffering, right? So, love. When it defines love, it says love is long suffering. Sorry, let me change that around. Long suffering is one of the definitions of love. There's just patience, and like just being patient with people. There's gonna be times people frustrate you. There's gonna be times you're just upset. But you just have to learn. Like, sometimes they really don't know. You just gotta keep praying for them. You know what I'm saying? And that just gets you at a vulnerable state. And that makes you stronger. Why? Because you're saying, I can't compromise or just be like, forget it. I'm going to give up on you. Mm-hmm. You could be the person that person needs for a breakthrough. Your prayers could be the thing to get that person past. Your patience with that person could be what ends up having that person's breakthrough. I'm pretty sure there was a bunch of times people prayed for me and they kept patience for me, even though I was, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I just feel like that's something I really want to work on and get better with. So, yeah, I definitely would say patience would be one thing I'd really want to get better at.
This has been a pleasure. I really do appreciate you sharing everything that you've shared with me today. I know that this is definitely going to change somebody's life. And anybody that's going through something, whether it's my followers or, you know, somebody that maybe you never connected with before that will listen to this, and the people that know you and will be able to get a better understanding, like what made you you today, and how you became 1% better in the man that you are today. So I appreciate your transparency, bro. I appreciate the love that you've shown. Just coming here on your 25th birthday, bro. Like I said, you could have been anywhere else in the world, and you chose to come here tonight. So thank you for that. Where can the people find you on social media?
On social media, you can find me at E_NAIRAA, Naira. Naira is Nigerian currency, so I just call myself that. But thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate being here. And one of the biggest things I learned is this power in your testimony. So it's like when you show your struggle, when you show like you've been through things and you've been able to overcome, that shows God's glory, and that shows people God is real. Like, even in the caption I was vulnerable, you get what I'm saying? And, like, I've struggled with depression and everything, but just, I remember what God did for me. Someone randomly just messaged me and was saying, I don't know you from anywhere, but you just literally made me want to lean on Christ more. That just brightened my entire mood. You know what I'm saying? Because, again, your story, if you keep it to yourself, who's going to know God is real? So that's why it's like, at a point I started telling myself, am I using it for sympathy? It's like, nah, like, you got to tell people your story. Because it shows, like, God is real. Yeah. A lot of people don't come back from situations, like, mentally as I have. And I've heard people tell me that. Even one time I was out of a party one time, way back, someone said a similar situation happened to his friend. And his friend basically became like a shadow of himself. Just a drunk, sitting down every day. He doesn't do anything anymore. And even now that it even reminds me to pray for that guy too. But you know what I'm saying? Like, just seeing it, like, God really turned my life around and just allowed my story to help other people. I can't be any more thankful for that. Despite how much I've been through, I've really just, like, I'm in Thanksgiving every day for that. Like, me just saying, like, what I've been through, who I am, helps people get better. There is no bigger blessing than that. You know what I'm saying? And one of the biggest things I leave everyone with is, like, and one of Jesus' teachers was, to be a true king is to be a servant to others. And I've learned that because I really find, like, true joy in helping others, being there for others, listening, giving advice when it need be. And it helps, you know, it really does help. So I'm always thankful. Thank you for having me.
Of course, brother. To everybody listening, thank you guys for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. This is the 1% Podcast. I'm out.